My name is Owen Gardner. I'm from BSI, British Standards Institution here. We're joined by obviously lots of people from Innovate, and possibly a few other outside organisations. Essentially, what we're going to show you today is access to our British Standards Online platform. And also to access to a portal called Standards Development. Now, British Standards Online is a service provided via a subscription through Innovate UK to all the small medium enterprise businesses that they deal with. And it gives you access to review our content standards, anything we've worked on, in a read-only format. And you will not be able to download or print or save from the documents, but you can still read the text online free of charge. The Standards Development Portal is a way for you to access additional information about these standards and things that are required to update them and maintain them going forward. Now, I've just got a few slides to go through, so bear with us while we move through the slides. So this is the two platforms here, Standards Development and BSOL. This is our agenda for today. We're basically going to cover who are BSI and how standards created and what they are, an introduction to BSOL and a live demonstration, and the introduction to standards development and again demonstration. And you'll have the chance to ask lots of questions if you want as you're going along. You are all on mute just now, so please use the chat area to do that. Now, what are standards? Oh, sorry, before we go any further, we're not expecting any fire drills. If you are working from a business premises, if you do see any fire alarms going off, please do respond in the normal way. If you're working from home, again, obviously deal with that at your home. So what are standards? What is British Standards Institution? BSI is the world's first national standards body. We're the largest and we're the most prolific of all standards bodies in the world. We were founded over 100 years ago by, funnily enough, the guy who designed and built the Tower Bridge in London. We are incorporated by a Royal Charter in 1929 by the government to say, produce standards, carry on, do the things you're doing well. Standards are there for the public good after all. You see some information on the screen, just a little snapshot of what BSI is and what we're involved in. And you're probably familiar with the kite mark symbol. This is BSI's actual registered trademark for testing and certifying products. What are standards? Well, standards are simply an agreed process, a way of doing something, possibly a scientific method, technical specifications, guidance, definitions, codes of practice, rules to do something. And they can relate to absolutely anything in the world, a product, a service, a component, a procedure. Is it a business related process? Is it banking? Is it software? Is it manufacturing nuts and bolts and screws, toys, clothes? Standards are involved in everything. There's not a standard in every single product in the world, but everything that goes into making a product, every process, every procedure, every component, every material specification has something. The standards come in different flavors. There are private standards. You can write your own standard. We can even help you write your own standards if you like. These are private standards. You can then approach someone like BSI if you feel there's a public good to be done here. Public need. Perhaps you want to make this information visible so that other like-minded individuals or companies could benefit from it. That's a publicly available specification. And we have different parts of BSI that can help you with that type of information and help you write those things. Then you have national standards. Standards are published and put together by people who volunteer in time and expertise. BSI doesn't write them. You write them, essentially. BSI will help you put the documents together, But they're put together by people volunteering their time and experience from different organisations, different companies, different groups of individuals or industries. If you're an educational body or trade body, an association, they volunteer time and experience to put something down on paper. So those are national standards. Now above that, you've got a European flavour. There's an agency called CEN, C-E-N, and they produce the European standards. Their standards usually have the letter prefix EN. And you see some of the examples on the screen here, BSEN, 1991, for example. The European Standards Body is made up of 34 major European countries. 27 of those are EU members. Britain obviously left that family of countries. 7 are non-EU members. But they all are members of this organisation. They all follow the same basic processes. And they essentially have one rule. Okay, when CEN publish something, or if CEN adopts something from above, the 34 countries there must adopt that standard. Sorry, just excuse me for 1 second. Someone's just come to my door. I do apologise. I'll be 1 second. Sorry, I do apologise about that there. The postman just arrived around mid-call. So yes, sorry, to come back. The European Standards Body, the 34 countries must adopt whatever they do. There are some exceptions. There are processes in place when you have to allow for regional variation, but as a general rule, if one country adopts it, they must all adopt it. Then you've got an international flavour. ISO is generally the biggest body there. So they're at the top of the tree here, top of the pyramid. They are made up of approximately 175 countries worldwide. America, Japan, China, Britain, and all the sort of major industrial countries you can think of, really. Their standards are optional, though. They're not required to be published or adopted by anyone. However, there is a process in place to allow for adoption. All that simply happens is that particular member country puts their own wrappers on the document. They might add a preface, they might add some annex at the back to explain the process. But the technical aspect of the standard stays the same. It's not permitted to be changed. It must be directly adopted without change. The European Standards Body, though, could decide to adopt it on behalf of the 34 countries. And that's where you might see a multitude of combinations: British, European, and international. BSEN ISO. So you can see it's a little complicated, all the letters and number combinations. It's quite rare for different standards bodies to choose the same number, though. There's plenty of numbers out there in the world. How do standards how are they put together? Well, they're put together, as I said, by volunteers from appropriate industries. Here's a selection of some key common trade associations in the UK who are members of our committees. But they are made up of about 13,000 individual members as well, across the 1,200 or so technical committees involved in looking at and researching and maintaining all sorts of technical information. The standards are roughly put together on the same process, no matter whether it's a British, European, or international. They must propose work, they must produce internal drafting, they must publicly publish something and allow for commentary, even if it's only for a small time period. They must resolve their standard, they must review it. Standards are there to assist in research and innovation, to help you get something on the market quicker, to help you go through processes quicker, to save you having to think of certain things you don't or shouldn't have to speed up those processes of research, perhaps. But then At some point you will release a product or a service to market, and then you gain feedback from that market, and that might then develop further versions of the same product, new generations of the product, revisions, maybe law comes along, regulation comes along and gets involved. But this ultimately is a back and forth. Standards help you innovate, you produce a product, you have to then bring that information back. That might result in review of the information and the processes. We've all got televisions in our houses. Televisions have evolved since the first days, and they still keep evolving. Now you've got laser projector televisions. In the 70s and 80s, you had the big theft bricks in the corner of the room. How do standards benefit you or the country? Well, we did some research in 2014, and we would do this every now and again. And at the time, it was estimated that the use of standards contribute to about £6.1 billion worth of UK exports alone. And they do help you to increase productivity because they're helping you put processes and procedures, make your business a bit more robust. So you can see some figures on the screen relating to that. Now, what we're going to look at today briefly is British Standards Online to start with. We'll do a live demonstration of that. Before we go any further though, does anyone have any questions about any of the information you've heard so far? Anything you want to ask about? Just pop something in the chat. We'll pause for about 30 seconds, allow you a chance to review and give something in. Let's move on then. So British Standards Online, BS Online, British Standards Online. This is an online portal that is available to the small medium enterprise members of Innovate UK Edge. Working together with BSI, Innovate have created a subscription service available to you. If you are a member of Innovate Edge, there is process documents within your intranet. Unfortunately, I don't have the location of that because I'm not an Edge Innovate representative, but there is information on your intranet along with work instructions that you have to follow. Essentially, though, you'll be giving access, or you get access to British Standards Online. It's got over 117,000 documents available to it. It allows you to research content, allows you to track and monitor content to see when it's going to change. It allows you to discover information about different fields. Your representative at Innovate UK will set up login details for private individuals. You will have to be on hand while this process is taking place because the platform will email you, the customer, with some login credentials and ask you to confirm activation. The basic process, though, is that the Innovate representative will fill in the application form within BSOL for the customer because there is a secure license key required to use that, and we can't give you that information out to the general public. BSOL is at bsol.bsigroup.com. When you arrive on that platform, you'll see a page something like this, and you'll see an option to register as a new user. And this is where your Innovate Edge person will be required to put in those contact information details for the customer. The person's email address becomes the username. They will choose a temporary password for the customer before filling in the rest of the contact details. And upon activation, the customer can then reset their password details to something more private and personal. Now let's just key up British Standards Online, and we'll start sharing that with you in a second. Any questions again? Flora, is there any questions in the chat area at all?
No, nothing in the chat at the moment. But nothing yet, but do feel free to put something in the question section or in the chat section, and I'll make sure that it gets answered.
Sorry, you can repeat that, Flora? So it was a bit mumbled there, sorry.
Sorry, I just said that there's nothing in the chat section yet, but if people want to add anything or write into the question section, I'll keep an eye out.
Okay, that's great. Okay, let's just pause sharing for 1 second. I'll just boot up BSOL. Okay, you should see BSOL. This is actually me logged in as an Innovate Edge UK user. So as you can see, there's some basic areas just to explore. We'll go through this quite briefly. If anyone has any examples of anything they want to use, I'll happily use that within the search. Otherwise, I'll just select a few things myself at random. So when you log in, this is where you'll be presented with. You'll land on the home screen. What you subscribe to is 53 complete sets of subject. If you want to see those areas, click on the line that says 53 modules. You'll see you're presented with a vertical line of information. Each topic is listed here, and you'll see a quantity of documents to the right of each one. The thing on mute there, so I do apologise. Browse for standards is a way for you to review content. It's a subject classification system. It's going to be the most useful feature to you. As I was just saying to myself, because I had myself on mute there, browse by module just gives you access to look at a top-down view of how BSI has classified some information. But it's not very useful to you as a research tool. Browse by subject gives you a much more user-friendly piece of information. It looks at basic topics, it puts a library code number against that subject, and it also breaks topics into sort of natural sub-classifications. So say you said healthcare. Maybe you decide to manufacture some small medical device. Well, here's a whole range of subcategories of that general topic. Maybe you're in manufacturing. Here's a whole range of standards in the manufacturing world on different types of manufacturing machinery. Electrical engineers. Maybe you're involved in installing alarm systems in buildings, social alarm systems in houses, perhaps. So here's alarms and warning systems. Protection against crime, might be alarm systems for that type of thing. Which could also include things like gates and doors and barriers and things as well. Security glazing, I guess, video surveillance. So you see there's a whole top-down view of this subject matter within the BSOL platform that you get access to. And you can see even domestic goods, paper and production, chemical technology, the clothing industry. Maybe you manufacture clothing. Maybe you're in the distribution world, packaging and distribution of goods. Here's a whole range of stuff there. Maybe you're making software. There are software standards. Maybe you're a service business. Here's loads of stuff in the world of business and quality and customer services, consumer protection, banking, education, leisure and tourism. 73 standards in subject to leisure and tourism. So again, could look at any sort of aspects. If you want to see any of those subject areas, select the number that you're interested in, and it will display that quantity, in this case 73 leisure and tourism standards. These will comprise of the latest editions, the draft editions for future updates, and also the current standards as well, historical, current and draft. Now if you want to and you prefer to, search via standard numbers or words. Maybe you produce shoes. Maybe you start to make bespoke shoes for people. Well, let's put the word shoes in. You see, it's offering me some suggestions. Now, every type of aspect of what goes into making a shoe, from the process of manufacture to the machinery to the sizing to the skid resistance. In this case, I can see a standard that says comparison of rear foot motion controls of running shoes. So I guess that's for stability in shoes if you're an over or under pronator. I didn't know there were standards on that. But the word shoes also relates to other types of use of the word shoes, brake shoes, which could be on cars, could be in trains, could be in airplanes, or some other time. You've got a shoe on the bottom of a camera flash, you can see there from the suggestions here. But I can search on the word shoes and it will present me with some kind of result. I can filter my results by types of publisher and status. The first thing I would personally do is take status. Status 103 documents. Publisher, I said we can only have the BSI content. Well, 90 of these are BSI's content, whether that's BSs, BSENs, BSE and ISOs. Well, maybe it is the footwear type shoe I'm looking for. Well, I can see a whole range of footwear related shoes and skid resistance and friction and heels and shoes and all sorts of things there. So I'm exposing myself to a whole range of types of content here from this particular topic area. I could also filter by things like subject or industry sector. And I can see the subject of footwear has 63 from this list of results. And now I'm at footwear. From sizes to dimensions to skid resistance to gluing properties, tread resistance, wear and tear, attachments, heels, fatigue. There's all sorts of things you can think of. You'd want your product to be able to last and be fit for purpose. So that's the whole point of standards, to save you having to figure out, well, what tests do I need to carry out? What are the requirements to prove this? You can export this information off to Excel if you want to print it off as well. If it's something useful, you can use it again. Now, perhaps you have a number you're aware of and something you want to look up. Everyone's worried about energy just now. So what about energy? Well, I know there's a standard called 50,001 because I used it on a previous call. But you might not know, but you could put energy management in as a subject. Put that as your choice of words. You see, I'm finding a whole range of standards in that realm. These are all BS 50001, BSE and ISO 50001, I should say, and a few other documents associated. Now, just to let you see some of the extra information you're going to see on the standard, if you hover over the number, you see it changes color. If you click on the number, it presents you with this description page. You can have a quick preview of the standard to see a few pages as a sample. In this case, it's given me 9 pages. I can cycle through those. You can see I at least get to the contents page, perhaps a few pages beyond. I can print that off as a sample, but not the full text. I want to read the standard. Well, I have this symbol here. This is on the results page and also inside on the description page. It says the words quick view. It looks like an Adobe type symbol with a magnifying glass over it. This gives me a read-only version of the standard. And here's my text here. This is a licensed copy through Innovate UK. It is read-only. You should not be able to print it or save it. Some ingenious people might use screen grab software, but obviously it's got a watermark on it as well, just in case you do that. You are permitted though to use this text. You can always utilize it, but just not download and print and save it. There is further information, so maybe you have found this document and you say, well, this is useful, this is the general requirements here, but what other things should I be looking at? Are there specific pieces of data I can look at in different aspects? Well, there's that subject classification system we talked about a minute ago in the browse area. So I may not be an expert in any particular field, but I know that I can pull up certain aspects of this virtual library and have a look at it. This particular document sits in several headings: management systems, service, environmental, but also energy. So maybe energy efficiency and conservation is the topic I'm interested in. Clicking on the appropriate line gives me those set of results. These are all the additional standards and requirements which are there in that general topic area. Now that's from energy audits in buildings, in energy audits in transport, and in processes in general, looking at specific types of machinery or equipment. You'd want to look at everything relating to your business. And you want to be able to factor that up so you can see how you could save energy or how much it's going to cost you to run your business for the year. Obviously allowing for businesses to, electricity companies to, gas companies to factor in their rates and whatever caps go in place by the government. But at least you're getting an idea of what sort of budget you might have to put in place based on what you're doing, and possibly where you can review and save energy. Okay, there's a whole range of stuff. There's been lots of research done in this area. It's all European and international. There are some documents that are still being reviewed. You can see there are draft documents. They have a funny number system. This draft number is indicated by this weird number here, year of publication 2022, an internal catalogue number, and then DC means draft for comment. So that's part of that review cycle, that process we talked about. There's your same download button to view it online. But maybe this document is something important to me. Maybe it relates to a document I'm already using, an existing version. Well, it looks like this is for an amendment to this standard. So that standard is probably in my list below. When is this draft going to come into force? When is this change going to come into place? Well, the platform has the ability to allow you to track and monitor any kind of content from the platform you wish. Every result on the platform has this yellow alarm bell. If you select the alarm bell, it brings up a little email alert menu. The first time you use this, it will simply ask you to create an alert folder. I'm going to call this one Energy 123. How often do I want the system to validate the tracking of this document? Well, I'm going to leave it at daily. It's not going to email me every day. It's not going to bombard me. It's simply going to validate. And if nothing has changed, if it hasn't published its full version, nothing's going to happen. And I'm going to press Add. And you'll see this document now has a little green tick against it. If I take the document below, I can now choose from existing alerts. And these are the folders I might have created previously to manage content in a different way. And there's the folder called Energy 123. We add this one, you see that's now got a tick on it. If we want to review the content that we've added to that folder, there's a tab at the top, My Email Alerts. And here are all my folders of information. I can have as many as I want to suit my business needs, but I view and edit, and you see here the two documents I'm currently tracking. If anything changes here, the platform will email me. If the status has changed, if this becomes a published document, it will send that email to me. I can manage the documents in different ways. I can remove content, copy and move it between locations. I can delete the list, rename the list. I can export this off as a useful bit as well. If you want to track those subjects, you have the ability to track those subjects we talked about, the module numbers or those subject numbers, those library numbers. And there's a line here that says Add Documents to List. If we select this area, you see it brings up a menu. You would want to track the subject codes. And you click the Browse button, it brings up that top-down view. So again, maybe we're in the environmental side of things. Maybe we're looking at energy. So you want to select those. Maybe we're in production. Again, you want to look at those areas. And select the one or multiple areas that you're interested in. Now, we're tracking those subject codes. You see the change color, so that will bring up a search result if we have one of those. Clicking on a number of a standard will bring up that description page of the standard instead. And that's useful because I'm tracking the topic. If new content is published, a standard has never existed before for a specific topic, it's going to tell me about it. New battery technology comes on for vehicles, and maybe new autonomous vehicle standards arrive. Maybe smart devices standards arrive. They've never had precursors. There are no precedents before. It's a new technology. It's emerged. The use of nanocarbon, graphene, perhaps on some new novel use. Again, something that could be used. There might not be a standard on that previously. So you're going to find new content being added to these subjects all the time. But the only way you'll find out that that type of thing is happening is if you track the subject rather than the individual standards. So that's the email alert area. That's the main thing you're going to do in there. Returning back to the search engine, just to give you a few suggestions. Remember we saw all those different weird and wonderful combinations of letters at the start of standards, BS, BSEN, BSEN, ISO, and all sorts of others. There's over 30 combinations of types of letters that could be in there. It can be very confusing. My simplest suggestion is if you're looking for a particular number, if you know the number of what you're after, just type the number. Don't worry about the letters. The search engine is very good. It will manage your expectations. It will sort the documents by relevance if you've chosen that as your option. If it gives us a scoring system in the background, if it scores things equally, it will put newest published to the top as well. You'll clearly see from the title on the results what these documents relate to. If there happens to be an accidental clash and some different agencies chosen the number for a different purpose, it will clearly be labelled. Well, this standard's on copper pipes, BSEN 1234. This standard, BSEN ISO 1234, that's on intelligent computer systems. It's on clothing, whatever it happens to be. You'll see the difference in title. It'll be fairly obvious. If you want to use words, I personally suggest using single words at a time in the search box, although it will do and or either automatically if you put multiple words. If you know part of a title, you can wrap it in inverted commas and then close inverted commas. It's only going to search the title and description and standard number fields of the standard. It's not going to search absolutely every aspect of it because it's PDF documents you're dealing with. But here we go. It gave me results that have the phrase quality management in their title. As you can clearly see here, my results. Does anyone have any questions there at all, Flora, so far in BSOL?
Not that I can see, no.
Okay, remember you can, if you want to drop something into the chat area, put some suggestions of types of content. If you're someone at Innovate, maybe you've come across a specific type of customer that maybe have an issue and needed some research. Remember, BSI for Innovate users is available to assist you in that respect. To point out some of the standards on the screen here, just to show you something else BSI gives you access to. Do you see how there are two standards here? They both appear to be the same standard, ISO 10008 2022. But one version says TC and tracked changes in the title. This is the same standard. If we look at the version below, you see this standard is made up of 44 pages of document. And you can have a quick preview of that and see what it relates to. The second version, the track change edition, is an editorial markup of the standard. This standard has had a previous edition. If we took a preview of it this time, you see it says this is a comparison document between the 2022 and the 2013. Most likely the text hasn't changed much, the actual requirements haven't changed much, but there are significant changes. But if you have this document previously, maybe from a purchase in the past perhaps, well, this document will help you compare. It will show in a red-lined format what has changed significantly in the text, what's been struck out from the the previous edition, 2013 edition, and the current 2022 edition, what's replaced it. And you can clearly see strike out in red and insertion in green. Now, this could be of use to you as a business user to understand what's changed there. If you had to approach someone like a private consultant to get them to review this standard for you, to say, well, what's changed here? They could charge you anything between £500 and £1,500, depending on the nature of the standard, to review that text, to highlight those changes. It's expensive, but we can provide that information to you free of charge as part of this subscription. This particular version is 94 pages. You remember the original version is 44. So this version, this downloadable version that you can read online, is made up of 2 copies of the standard. The tracked change version with all the red and green inserted is 54 pages. Sorry, 50 pages. And then the remaining 44 pages at the back is the finished 2022 edition. So you're actually getting a 2-for-1 essentially here. And everything we've talked about in the filters and the searching and getting results on the screen, they're also available in the advanced search option here. You can preload some of those terms, status, publisher, subject code perhaps, put some sort of words in. The platform will offer you suggestions as you start to type something. You can ignore those suggestions and keep typing your own things in. Run sort of search, and in this case, is pulled through all my filters immediately. So it's there to try and speed up your process. If you're not quite certain on the choice of words, put in some kind of word that's close to what you're looking for. I'm looking for something in the world of lighting. you can again see it's offering me a few suggestions. I'm going to ignore them. I'm going to select the word lighting. It's got over 3,000 records here though, so I'd want to filter that a bit more. First thing I would do again is status. I only want the latest edition. That gets me to just under 2,000. Publisher BSI, that's got me down to about 1,500. But maybe I want to put some extra thing in there. I'm looking for something on emergency lighting. You see that the word lighting is not here though. It's actually, the subject is actually called Luminaires. The world of standards is not necessarily known for having plain English. It's always quite technical, quite business related, quite jargon, because of the nature of what it is. It's technical work, technical information for that particular world. So if you find yourself in the right area of information, remember you can always pull up that subject code. Click on a number that's closely matched. Pull the subject up, and you see here's the overall subject of Luminaires, which includes lamps and light bulbs and fittings and things. And you see there's a range of standards, and I can quickly review that. If the page is slightly too big, small, sorry, I can increase the size to make it more readable. I can format the page in different ways. So that is essentially everything you probably need from BSOL. Flora, is there any questions from anyone? Anything in the chat before we carry on to the next platform?
No, nothing further.
Okay, we'll give a few seconds in case someone has any ideas. Remember, if you're someone at Innovate rather than a commercial customer, this is the type of thing you might be asked to help them with, to research a subject, to propose types of standards to them. Ultimately, customers, commercial organizations are responsible for what they decide to use and follow and choose, but you can certainly propose likely content that should be considered in those areas. Standards and regulation are not the same thing. However, standards can often be referred to within regulation. There's one instance where a standard actually became the regulation, something called BS 7671, the wiring regulations is called. And that is a weird standard. You can't actually download it from BS Online unless you subscribe through a specific service. And it's actually owned by the Institute of, I think it's the IET, so I can never remember their actual name, but it's the IET in London, who are basically involved in electrical work. The government mandated that they become the controlling body for that subject area. In the world of double glazing, that's FENSA, Corgi for gas, and you might have other agencies for different things, different appointed independent institutions or bodies, trade associations, non-executive departments of the government, perhaps, for things like roads and railways. But standards in their own right are just pieces of voluntary information. They're best practice put down on paper to save you figuring things out for yourself. Now, how are they developed? How are they maintained? There is a link on our platform on the front page that says, have you visited the Standards Development Portal? Now, this is where we're going to go next. If I just find my slides again. So Standards Development Portal is an online site, standardsdevelopment.bsigroup.com. Now your login details or your customer login details will work in this platform too. The very first time you log in, you'll see that it might just prompt you to confirm a few extra details, such as, are you a private organization? Have you got a job title? The website is managed by our actual production side of BSI, the people who write the standards, the people who volunteer in their time and expertise. You'll be presented with a page something like this, but this will allow you to find out more information about regulation and standards and propose ideas. Look at some documents that are going through the latest types of things that are published from every type of industry. It allows you to search and research in the same way you would in BSOL. And also allow you to see a bit more information about the technical group that's producing this standard, in this case, a technical committee, and also what is being proposed as regards publication dates and where they are within that project. That's important. That allows you to become proactive in the way you manage your information. You get ahead of the curve, you get an advance warning, you get an advantage over other types of industry body. You have the ability, if you want to suggest new content to us. There is a link on the page that allows you to propose an idea. BSI has all these members, but you know, you're out there, you're the people dealing with the customers, or you are the customer. You've got ideas for yourself. You've come up with some new novel device or process, a new way of looking at something, a new way of checking something. At some point, it will become public knowledge and people will start to copy it and compare, and it might cause clashes. There might be different ways of looking at things. There are different aspects that have to be considered, perhaps. There are different applications of existing standards. Propose an idea, give us a suggestion. If we feel it's got merit, we'll pursue it. We put our money behind it. BSI is a private institution. We are not part of the government. And to produce a standard is not cheap. A typical standard could cost anywhere between £80,000 and £120,000 to produce from scratch, even if it's only 30 or 40 pages. Now let's go back and look at the actual standards development platform. So I'm going to click on the link here to take me to that site. I'm going to press register login. You can see it has recognized me. Even because I'm already logged into the BSOL platform, it's recognized me and it's pulled me straight on. There are some basic areas at the top here. There's some categories you can review. They are replicated in the center. Your account information about the site. There's a help area. There is a little bit more information about regulation. There's a link to an external site run by the government there. And this is where you can propose your idea. Now, likelihood is, though, you probably just want to go in and check, well, when is this standard going to be updated? When is it going to publish? Because it affects me. It's the standard I'm using just now. Put in a word, put in a number, see what comes up. Equally, you could have a look at some of the information below or search by a topic, or you can see some suggestions of things that we'll be going through right now. If we use this example here on the screen, I can see this BSEN 397 on industrial protective helmets. It's being published by the SEN European Standards Organization. This is the technical committee in charge of it. This is the topic. Here's a little scope to explain what it relates to. But interestingly and importantly, here is the timeline that that working group has put in place to show and highlight that information and when it's going to be coming into force. Now, it looks like there's a clash of dates here in this example. So I would assume that this project has actually fallen behind and have not yet updated the information. The initial project was probably put in place some time ago. It was hoping to complete by this date, but it looks like there's been a delay. They're only going to reach comment resolution in February next year. Sorry, 2024. This is obviously something that has a lot of, excuse the pun, impact in this particular subject. So maybe they're discussing some area, something has changed in that world. But if you want to review what they're published, during these two timestamps, you have the ability within this secondary website to see the draft as well as you can in BSOL. It will stay in the BSOL side of things until full publication takes place. But the version on the standards development website allows you to also see the text and also give live and instantaneous feedback on all the various sections, clauses, tables, formulas. If I click on any of those lines, you see I get a section to add some feedback. Tell us what you like about this area. Tell us you don't like it. Propose a change. Tell us something needs to be updated. There's a mistake here. There's a calculation there. You need to include this extra bit of data. Submit the feedback. This will go through to the BSI technical group in charge of the subject, and if it's an international or European standard, we'll also take this information forward on your behalf to the international level. I mentioned there are 13,000 approximately people volunteering directly within these technical committees, but that's a drop in the ocean when our technical catalogue is over 117,000 standards. So the more feedback we can get from the wider populace, the people who are using these standards, the end users, the subscribers, the better the quality of the document becomes in the future. And new content is added and new things are considered in a more timely manner. Equally, something tragic could happen which results in the need to review standards. And we're all in the UK familiar with Grenfell to some respect. You at least heard it in the news, that tragedy that happened in London with the tower block. Well, that resulted in a whole range of fire and production and safety and construction material and cladding standards being brought forward immediately. They were immediately taken off sale. They were reviewed. Some might have resulted in further multiple reviews taking place. I know there was some discussion around the subject of disabled access. I'm not an expert in that world and I won't comment on it, but I'm aware that that subject, although some updates took place, there was some further discussion required in the disabled world. And that standard most likely has or is underway a secondary review or a third review perhaps. Multiple standards might be produced from this. Data is updated. Other agencies or other organizations are involved. People at the BRE might produce test data on burn behaviors, for example. And that data might go into updating the standards. That BRE are actually members of many of these technical committees. Many health and safety organizations are, in fact, people like ROSPA, for example, could be. You might also have a representative from various appropriate government agencies as well, if it's applicable. But ultimately, these standards and standards development are there to help you discover where things are, what stage we're at, when to expect those implementation of that information, which then means that you, as you're producing or developing a product or a service, can take those factors into account. Put some words in, put some terms in. We mentioned light. Let's put light in. Let's see what comes up. Let's see what kind of information is being reviewed in that world. There's some documents out there just now, some documents being drafting, some proposals, some documents at public commentary stage. But ultimately, it's all there for you to assist you. If you are an Innovate user, this is something you could be steering your customer through. If you are a customer of Innovate, this is something you should be using to help you with research and to manage your standards and information that could be assisting you with your products and services. Now, that's probably all we need to talk to about the two platforms and about BSI. I have been asked to point out that any inquiries from the customers of Innovate, they should be addressed to Innovate directly. If you've got a query about any of the standards, they should come through the National Inquiry Gateway initially. If it's not something that representatives at Innovate have an experience on, they can liaise with BSI. We have representatives that could assist you with that information research, perhaps, or help steer you in the right direction, provide further information to your Innovate representative. So http www.innovateukedge.ukri.org is the gateway, and you can also email directly at contact@innovateukedge.ukri.org as well. And this is your last opportunity. I'm pretty much finished my presentation for today. Does anyone have any questions, anything they want to ask about? There's no such thing as a silly question. Feel free to ask. We've got some minutes spared over. We've actually got 35 minutes left over. We've got through the information quite quickly today. And there's been no questions. Other calls with lots of questions. Use the chat area, pop something in there. My colleague Flora will pick that up and ask me the question for you. We'll give it a couple of minutes. Flora, anything popping up at all?
No, nothing popping up yet, but I'm keeping an eye on it. So any questions, feel free to put them in there.
Absolutely. Feel free to pop something in the chat area if you have a question.
Okay, so we have a question about how you can share access with clients.
Okay. So the access with clients is done via a code reference number. You can see that on there at a glance there. There is a document put together. It's stored on the Innovate database. Let's see if we can find a copy of it here. Might be this one here. Okay, so there's a process document that's been put together. Now you'll find that document on your intranet. You search on BSOL, or British Standards Online. I don't have the exact location because I'm not an Innovate representative. But that process document will basically say that you, as the representative at Innovate, should register on behalf of the customer while you've got them to hand. It will ask you to, let's just do it in fact briefly. It'll ask you to go to BSI's website, BSOL, and click on the register as a new user. You, within your work instruction, will be provided with a code reference, which you'll copy into here. I have a license key. You'll copy and paste it into this field. It will then present you with the contact information that you're going to put in as the customer, whatever that detail is. So the email address becomes the username. You will choose a password. Right, let's pull up the user guide in the help area. Give me 1 second. Let's go to the help FAQ. There is a complete user guide, as the platform stands for every user in BSOL. You've got just downloaded it from the help area. The Innovate UK Edge one is more specific to you guys, but how to register, as you can see, is listed here. So go to the website, register as a user. I have a license key. Copy and paste the code that's in the instruction on your intranet. Fill in the contact information for the customer. The platform will email the customer's email address directly within a minute or so of submission. The activation link must be clicked on within 30 minutes or the activation link will expire. So you should really do this process while you've got them in hand. Once they've activated, the customer can then click on the forgot your password link and reset the password to something more personal and private. You can choose something personal to them. You could discuss a password while you're doing it, I guess, online to save them doing that. Obviously, consider your general data protection regulations if you're going to do that. Make sure you're not putting it in writing. But essentially, that will give them access to the platform. Now, that instruction document is on your intranet. Just search for BSOL there.